So what are the 10 best discounts that you can get in car insurance? I dove in and started to look at some of them, and I've debunked a few of these that the websites are saying it should be this, it should be that. Let's dive in and go over the 10 best discounts that you should be able to get on your car insurance policy. The first one, and usually the most largest, biggest one, is the multi-policy discount. Now, there's actually one that's trumping that. We'll go over it in just a moment. But the multi-policy discount is typically somewhere between 20 to 35% off. Some companies might go a little bit higher, some companies might go a little bit lower. In general, having a multi-policy discount does two things for the insurance company. One, it almost guarantees that you're going to stay longer with them. There's actually a statistic that the more policies that you have with one company, the longer a person will stay with that company. It's like going to dinner and they ask if you want dessert. They find that if they bring the dessert tray to you and show you all the desserts, you're more likely to purchase. That also increases their tips because the larger that your bill is, the larger the tips are. Kind of what insurance is playing off of is a very similar method of doing business. Also, it helps them to know all of the risks because it's under one house. So they can actually take that and say, okay, great. We have their auto, we have their boat, we have their home, we have their umbrella. We've got all these 5 policies. It's a lot more difficult to break those up and start shopping with different companies, especially when a lot of the agents are more salesy now, and it's become more of a complication for customers to go research. There is a solution to that. I've actually have a link in the description below where you can actually do an online quote and start to talk with a live agent. You're not going to get 30, 40 phone calls from 10 different places. You're going to have a main company to talk with and try to figure this out. There's an option for it. If you are interested, check out the description below for that link to do the quote. That leads us into the second best discount, which is the multi-car discount. And this is, once again, there's a better discount than this, so we'll talk about the third best, right? We'll move our way there. That discount that you can get from multi-car is massive, and it can be massive. Sometimes it's not a ton, but most of the time it's a lot. And we say about 20 to 25% is the multi-car discount. I'll give you an example that actually just happened this week. I had a customer call up and say, I'm thinking of putting my car down, so to speak. It's not running right. Something's wrong with it. I'm not going to drive it. And then I'm also thinking of getting rid of it. So we ran the numbers. If we just park it and put it into what's called storage insurance, because she had a second car, that made a huge impact on the price. It went from, in Michigan, we're paying about $300 something a month for car insurance. It went down to less than $200, or right around that $200 mark. So it knocked off over $100 and some odd to put it into storage. If we remove the car altogether, that leaves us with one vehicle and 2 drivers in this case. That one vehicle and 2 drivers on the exact same policy, no other changes. Instead of storing it, we completely remove it. It was actually more expensive than the current policy. So it actually went from the 3 something to a higher 3 something. It didn't go up drastically, it wasn't night and day, but it does make an impact. That's not always the case, but in this case, it made a pretty large difference. The third one, which is where I'm saying is probably the second, sometimes even the best one, is being a safe driver. There's 2 parts to this. So the first part is being a safe driver is a safe driver discount. A lot of companies, because you haven't had any claims or any accidents or tickets in the last 3 years or more, will give you a specific discount. A lot of companies, if you go 5 years or more and it stops at the 5-year, you can go 12, but it's really the same. They've maxed out that discount. You're going to be looking anywhere from 10 to 40% off. Now that 40% leans a little bit past just having a safe driver discount. It's something called telematics, kind of its own category, but it goes beyond what you're talking about. A good driver can be proven. If you do a tracking device on your phone and app, or if you plug a device into your car and it watches your braking, watches your acceleration, watches the time of day that you're driving. They're really trying to make sure you're not driving after midnight and before 5 a.m. That's their risky spot in most insurance companies. But if those are the cases and you can show that for 90 days, some companies are more, some are less. It just depends on who you're working with. Again, that's up to the agent. Either you're working with your agent or that link's in the description below. That will determine what type of and level of discount. Those typically can get up to 40% off on their own. The fourth is the good student discount. It's really more so for anyone that's under the age of 25. If you have a B on average or better, which is a 3.0 or better, then you can qualify for what's called a good student discount. Even if you're on your own or if you're on your parents' policy, that can go as low as 5%. It's not always the best discount depending on the company, but can go as high as 25% off. Now, Mark, wait, if I'm getting 25 and 20, won't they owe me for the insurance? Not really. The way insurance does discounts is there's sections of policies. So when you're looking at your liability, your property damage, your different levels of coverage, I'll link a video that goes more in depth on those, but these are discounts in certain sections. So the car's liability risk based on safety features of the vehicle are going to give a discount in that section. So just be mindful that when we're saying 25% off, it can get close to the total premium, but it's not going to add up to where the insurance company is going to pay you for the policy. The fifth is the low mileage discount. If you drive less than 5,000 miles a year, you are going to get a really good discount. That's one of the larger pieces that insurance companies are looking at, especially with all the rate increases they've had. All these risks have shown up and there's all these accidents and claims. Well, we know how to combat that. We just don't drive, right? You park the car in the garage and we're morally driven to not drive the car, or we're just scared, right? So we're going to remove ourselves from the equation. Well, if you drive lower mileage and you can show proof of that, or you can sign a disclosure that says I'm going to drive less than this, then you can get what's called a low mileage discount. That low mileage discount can get up to 15% off with most companies, and that's very common. You can get a partial discount if you're driving between 5 and 8,000 miles. 8 to 10 is very little, if any, discount, and then usually 10 on up is no discount at all. Once you get to over mileage, if you're driving 10 or 15 or even 20,000, it really caps at that 15 with the majority of the companies out there. You can drive 20 or 15. A lot of times I don't see the price change much, if at all. The seventh discount that we're going to talk about is being a mature driver. If you're 55 or older, a lot of companies have reversed it back to 50 because 50 does tend to fall in that same boat. But being 50 or 55 or older, or a retiree or retired, whatever the case is, then in those scenarios, you're going to get up to a 10% discount as well. The beauty of that one is that you don't actually have to show anything. It just knows, because your policy is going to pull your license, you're going to give your date of birth, and these discounts should automatically apply to your policy with just about every company out there. And that kind of trickles into more of the basic discounts. Now, online it says you can get up to a 25% discount, but I don't really ever see this. So anywhere from a 2, I'll say, to 12 to 15% off is if you have some sort of anti-theft. Security in the vehicle makes a big difference, and there are different levels. There's your standard alarm, there's just a siren, and then there's passive, as they call it, or active. So if it actively arms itself when you get out of the car, you walk away, 30 seconds later it beeps if you forgot. So there's that activeness, right? So those are different levels. They're not a huge difference in discounts between the two, but then you also have the low jack. That's where it can track the car if someone stole it. There's also your OnStar and your Blue networks and all of those things, that more of your higher end services that you can get with the vehicle that allow you to just shut the car off. Someone steals it, we know where it's at, we can shut it off, we can notify the police, and we'll recover it fairly quickly with usually little to no damage. I personally think there should be a bigger discount for that one, but it's one of those things that they don't necessarily check heavily. And when you start using the network ones, you gotta paperwork and prove that you're actually using it. So there's complications that come with it. They're usually anywhere from that 2 to 15% off of your policy discount. The final major discount that you can get, number 10, is the paid in full discount, where it depends on the company. Most companies will give you 5-ish% off. Some will do 2%. Some companies will do over 15%. And that's off the whole thing. I've actually seen a policy go down $700. It was a larger premium, but it went from $3,000 to $20-something hundred just because they paid in full. A lot of companies will want you to pay in full, and by doing that, they don't have to chase you for payments. They don't have to do late fees. They don't have to potentially lose your business because you just can't work together. And if they take that headache away, they're going to give you a discount for that preferred payment option. Hopefully this was helpful. If you are wanting to know more about those coverages that we talked about in depth, I have my Car Insurance 101 that will be very helpful. Let me know what your thoughts are if I'm missing a major discount below. I know there's engineers and whatnot. I actually have a discount video that goes a little bit more into the occupational type discounts. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.